Step out of the vehicle right now.
Why am I being ordered out of my car, officer?
I smell marijuana. That's reason enough.
You haven't found anything. You haven't seen anything. So what's the real reason?
Watch your tone. You don't get to question me.
My name is Commander Jordan Hale. I run internal affairs.
What?
The street was quiet that evening, but the flashing red and blue lights from the police car made everything feel tense. Officer Mason stepped out of his cruiser with slow and heavy steps. His hand rested on his belt like he expected trouble, even though nothing dangerous was happening. Mason had been a police officer for 12 long years. In that time, he had gained a reputation that most good officers did not want to be part of. Other officers did not like to work with him. Some looked away when he entered a room. Many complaints had been made about him, but they never seemed to move past his surgeon's desk. Nothing ever changed. And this Wednesday evening in September was the night Officer Mason made the biggest mistake of his entire career. He had pulled over a dark-colored luxury car, a Jaguar sedan, claiming the tail light was broken. The tail light was not broken. It had never been broken. And the man sitting behind the wheel was not someone Mason should have tried to intimidate. The man was Commander Jordan Hale, the newly appointed head of internal affairs for the whole police department. Before we go deeper, I want to ask you something. Where are you watching from? Write your city or country in the comments, and please hit the subscribe button. This story is about to get intense, and you will want to see every part of it. Jordan sat still inside his car. Both of his hands rested clearly on the steering wheel, where they could easily be seen. He had been a police officer for 23 years, almost twice as long as Mason. He had worked his way up step by step. First patrol officer, then detective, then sergeant, then lieutenant, and finally commander. 3 months earlier, the police commissioner chose him personally to take charge of internal affairs and clean up corruption after a scandal made national news. The department needed someone honest, someone brave, someone who would face dirty officers without fear. Jordan was that man. But right now on this street in this car, he was simply another black man being pulled over for no clear reason. Officer Mason walked toward the Jaguar slowly, like he wanted to show who had power here. His flashlight shined into the car even though there was still enough light to see. He tapped on the window with a flashlight, another small action meant to show control. Jordan pressed the button and lowered the window. License and registration, Mason said without greeting. Jordan moved slowly, like he had taught many young black men to do during safety workshops. May I ask why you pulled me over, officer? Mason's jaw tightened. He never liked when someone asked questions. I said, license and registration. Jordan had a choice here. He could show his badge and reveal who he was, and Mason would suddenly become polite and afraid. Or he could let the moment continue to unfold and see how far Mason would go. Maybe this would give him the evidence he needed to understand what kind of officer Mason truly was. Jordan chose the second option. He moved slowly, explaining his actions out loud. I'm reaching for my glove compartment now. My registration is inside. Mason's hand moved closer to his weapon. Faster. I don't have all day. Jordan kept his calm. He handed over the registration, then took out his wallet and gave his license. Mason snatched both and looked at them with his flashlight. The name, Jordan Hale, was correct. The address matched a good neighborhood nearby. Everything was in order. Instead of feeling satisfied, Mason seemed annoyed. Step out of the vehicle, Mason said. For what reason? Jordan asked, still calm. I smell marijuana. Step out of the vehicle now. Jordan did not smoke. His car smelled like fresh leather and a bit of coffee he spilled that morning. There was no marijuana smell. But Jordan knew this script well. He had read the same excuses many times in the complaints that reached his desk. He stepped out. At 6 feet tall and well-built, Jordan carried himself with confidence. This seemed to make Mason even more uncomfortable. Turn around. Hands on the vehicle. Jordan obeyed. Mason began to pat him down roughly, far more roughly than necessary. A few people in the neighborhood noticed. An older woman stood watching from a porch. A teenager on a bicycle slowed down. People could feel something was wrong. What do we have here? Mason asked as he took Jordan's phone from his pocket. That's my phone. I'll decide what it is, Mason said sharply. Looks expensive. Where does someone like you get the money for a car like this and a phone like this? Someone like you. Jordan had heard these words many times in other people's stories. Now he was hearing them aimed at him. After finishing the rough search, Mason walked back to his cruiser with Jordan's phone and documents. He sat there for nearly 20 minutes. Jordan remained standing with his hands on the car the entire time. The long wait was another tactic Jordan recognized, something used to humiliate and intimidate the person being stopped. More neighbors stepped outside. One young woman began recording the situation on her phone. Mason did not notice. When the background check came back clean, Mason looked frustrated. No warrants. No criminal record. Not even a parking ticket. But Mason still did not know who Jordan really was. To him, Jordan was simply a black man in a nice car who needed to be taught a lesson. Finally, Mason returned. "I'm going to search your vehicle," he announced. Jordan lifted his head. He was tired of this. "On what grounds? You've run my information. I have no warrants, no record. The stop was for a tail light that isn't broken. You claimed to smell marijuana, but you found nothing on me. What probable cause do you have to search my vehicle?" Mason grew red with anger. He was not used to someone who knew the law better than he did. "Don't tell me how to do my job," Mason said. "I have reasonable suspicion, and that's all I need." "Reasonable suspicion of what, specifically?" Jordan asked. That question pushed Mason past his limit. "You want to play lawyer?" Mason said, stepping close. "How about I add resisting arrest to the charges?" "What charges?" Jordan asked. "What am I being arrested for?" "Disorderly conduct. Failure to comply with a lawful order." Jordan had done nothing wrong, and now he could see where this was going. Mason pulled out his handcuffs. "Turn around." Jordan looked straight at him. "Officer Mason," he said, "before you put those handcuffs on me, I need to inform you that I am Commander Jordan Hale, head of internal affairs for this police department." Officer Mason froze. His hands stopped mid-air with the open handcuffs hanging between his fingers. For a moment, he did not breathe. He simply stared at Jordan like he had just seen something impossible. The name, the title, the rank, none of it matched the story Mason had created in his mind when he first approached the car. "Badge number 47, Jordan continued in a steady voice. "I report directly to the police commissioner, and for the past 25 minutes, you have been conducting an illegal stop, an illegal search, an illegal seizure of property, and now you're attempting an arrest based on false charges." Mason's face grew pale, then red, then pale again. His mouth opened, but no words came out. "I don't believe you," he finally said, but his voice sounded weak, as if he no longer believed himself. "Show me your badge." "My badge is in my wallet, which is in your hand," Jordan replied. "The same wallet you took my driver's license from. If you had bothered to look, you would have seen it." Mason looked down at Jordan's wallet, still in his grip. His fingers shook as he opened it. There, beside the space where the driver's license had been, sat the police identification card and the gold badge. The handcuffs slipped from Mason's hands and fell onto the pavement with a metallic clatter. I didn't know," Mason whispered. Jordan looked at him with calm eyes. "Would it have mattered if I wasn't a police commander? If I was just a regular citizen, would this stop have been acceptable?" Mason had no answer. The truth was too clear, too loud, too painful to speak. Jordan took a slow breath. His voice was still calm, but now it carried the weight of everything he represented: authority, justice, and accountability. "I'm going to ask you a direct question," he said. "How many times have you done this? How many drivers have you pulled over without cause? How many illegal searches? How many false arrests?" Mason opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Sweat gathered on his forehead. The cool evening air did nothing to help him. "I want you to think carefully about your answer," Jordan said, "because I'm going to be reviewing every single report you filed, every stop you've made, and every complaint placed against you. And something tells me we're going to find a pattern." It was the truth, and Mason knew it. The people watching knew it. The young woman recording it knew it. But there was something more important. Jordan knew it too. And he already knew that this moment was no mistake. This moment was a window into years of unchecked behavior. "You thought my taillight was broken. It's not. You thought you smelled marijuana. You didn't. You thought I was being disorderly. Your own dashcam will show I was completely cooperative. So what did you really think, Officer Mason? Jordan didn't need an answer. The silence was the answer. Just then, the sound of neighbors whispering grew louder. The young woman with the phone continued recording every second. The old woman watched with crossed arms. A teenage boy stood by his bicycle, eyes wide, as if he knew something important was happening. Mason bent down slowly to pick up the handcuffs he had dropped. His hands shook as he held the cold metal. When he straightened up, he looked like a man who had just seen the end of his career. "What happens now?" he asked quietly. "Now," Jordan said, "you're going to return my phone and my documents. Then you're going to get in your cruiser and drive directly to the station. You're going to Internal Affairs and file a complete report of this incident, every detail. And then you're going to wait for me to arrive." Mason swallowed hard. "And if I don't?" Jordan motioned toward the neighbors, the recording phone, and the police camera on Mason's own car. "Then I'll file the report for you, and it will include failure to comply with a superior officer's direct order. Your choice." Mason handed over the phone and documents with trembling hands. He walked back to his cruiser like someone walking toward a long and painful punishment. The engine started, the lights went off, and the cruiser disappeared down the street. Jordan stood alone for a moment, letting the tension fall away. Staying calm during an abusive stop took energy, more than people understood. But he had learned long ago that calm was powerful. The young woman walked toward him. "Are you okay?" she asked. "I am," Jordan said. "Thank you for recording that." "I've seen that officer before," she said. "He stopped my brother last month. Gave him a ticket for an expired sticker that wasn't expired. My brother tried to fight it, but nothing happened." "Nothing happened then," Jordan said gently. "But something's going to happen now. Can I get your contact information? You and your brother may be witnesses." She nodded and gave her number. Jordan typed it into his phone and wrote a quick note. The older woman across the street called out loudly, "About time someone did something about that man. He's been troubling this neighborhood for years." Years. The word echoed in Jordan's mind. If Mason had acted this way for years, how many people had been treated the same way? How many reports had been ignored? How many voices had been silenced? Jordan took one more breath and returned to his car. He could have ended the whole situation earlier by showing his badge, but that would only have protected him, not the many people who had faced similar treatment without anyone to defend them. He started his engine and drove toward the station. He passed the park where he once coached youth baseball, the community center where he taught lessons on police and community trust, and the cafe he visited each morning. Everything familiar, yet everything changed by what happened that evening. The police station stood tall ahead. Jordan parked in his spot and walked inside. The building was mostly empty at that hour, but a few officers glanced up as he passed. Some respected him. Some disliked him. Some feared him. Internal Affairs had that effect. As he expected, Mason was already seated in the waiting area. His uniform looked heavy now, like he no longer belonged in it. His face showed fear, shame, and helplessness. Jordan walked past him without a word and entered his office. Then he set down his bag, turned on his computer, and opened Officer Mason's file. 12 years on the force. 43 complaints. Jordan stared at the number. 43. And yet, Mason was still active, still with a gun, still patrolling, still harming innocent people. Jordan opened the first complaint. Then the second. Then the fifth. The pattern was clear. Excessive force. Illegal searches. Racial profiling. Unjust arrests. Harassment. Every complaint seemed to follow the same script. Most complaints were dismissed or marked unfounded by Mason's sergeant. Not because the complaints were false, but because the sergeant never tried to investigate them. Jordan picked up his phone and called the police commissioner. "We have a problem," he said. "A big one." The police commissioner arrived at the station before sunrise. He walked down the quiet hallway with fast steps, his jacket still unbuttoned, his face serious. When he reached Jordan's office, he did not wait for an invitation. He pushed the door open. "Show me," the commissioner said. Jordan turned his computer screen toward him. The commissioner leaned forward, scanning the long list of complaints. His jaw tightened. 43, he said quietly. And no one reported this up the chain. No one, Jordan answered. Every complaint went straight to the same surgeon, and he dismissed almost all of them in minutes. The commissioner closed his eyes for a moment, thinking deeply. When he opened them, Jordan could see something new in his expression, anger, but also regret. We trusted him, the commissioner said. We trusted his reports. We trusted his judgment. And now look at what it cost. It cost more than we know, Jordan replied. The neighbors recognized him. They said this behavior has been happening for years. The commissioner sat down slowly. What do you think we should do? Jordan already knew the answer. He had known it from the moment he opened the first complaint. We take full action. Complete investigation. Internal affairs review of every stop he has made. BodyCam footage, dashcam footage, written reports. And we speak with every person he has stopped in the past 12 years. 12 years, the commissioner repeated with a tired sigh. This is going to shake the whole department. It needs to, Jordan said softly. The commissioner nodded, stood up again, and said, Bring Mason in. A few minutes later, Mason entered the office. He looked like he had not slept. His hands were shaking. His eyes were red. He stood rigidly at attention. Officer Mason, the commissioner said, you are being placed on immediate suspension pending full investigation. You will turn in your badge, firearm, and access card now. Mason swallowed. Sir, I made mistakes, but I didn't think. You didn't think, the commissioner repeated sharply. That is the problem. And while you were not thinking, people were getting hurt. Mason looked down at the floor. Slowly, he removed his gun belt and badge. He placed them on Jordan's desk. His shoulders sagged. Leave your keys with the front desk, the commissioner said. You will be contacted by Internal Affairs with your interview time. Mason nodded weakly and left the room. For a long moment, both men remained silent. Then the commissioner said, This is going to be public. And it's going to be loud. Jordan nodded. Good. It should be. The commissioner left to make arrangements, and Jordan continued his review. As he opened complaint after complaint, he noticed something important. Many people had described the same fear, the same helplessness, the same sense that their voice did not matter. There was a pattern of pain, a pattern of silence. Jordan leaned back in his chair. He thought about the young woman who had recorded the incident. He thought about the old woman across the street. He thought about the teenage boy with the bicycle. These were the people who had been living under the shadow of an officer who abused power. Jordan opened one complaint from 8 years ago. A man had been pulled over on his way home from work. The report said the man felt threatened, intimidated, and humiliated. It ended with the man saying, I know no one will believe me, but I have to try. Jordan whispered to himself, someone should have believed him. Later that morning, Jordan met with the Internal Affairs team. Files were gathered, evidence was pulled, old tapes were located, and officers began making calls. The investigation was officially launched. As Jordan walked down the hallway, officers glanced at him with mixed reactions. Some looked relieved. Others looked afraid. A few looked angry. But Jordan had expected that. Change always made people uncomfortable. On his way back to his office, he heard a voice behind him. Commander Jordan. He turned. It was Officer Ruiz, a younger officer he had mentored years ago. Ruiz looked troubled. Sir, Ruiz said quietly, can I talk to you? Jordan nodded and led him into his office. Ruiz sat down and took a shaky breath. I need to tell you something, he said. About Mason. Jordan waited. I was a rookie when I first rode with him, Ruiz said. I saw things. I heard things. I knew something wasn't right. But when I tried to say something, my sergeant told me to drop it. He said reporting Mason would end my career before it started. Jordan looked at him calmly. And did you drop it? Ruiz looked down at his hands. Yes, and I shouldn't have. Jordan sat forward. Ruiz, listen to me. You were a young officer in a difficult place. But you're speaking up now, and that matters. If you're ready to give an official statement, we can include everything you witnessed. Ruiz nodded slowly. I want to. I should have done it years ago. Jordan put a hand on his shoulder. It's never too late to do the right thing. Ruiz let out a shaky breath. Thank you, sir. After Ruiz left, Jordan sat alone in the quiet office. The weight of the investigation was heavy, but there was something else too. A quiet strength rising in the department. Officers who had been silent for years were beginning to speak. Later in the day, Jordan received a call from the young woman who had recorded the incident. Commander Jordan, she said. Yes. My brother wants to come forward, she said. He didn't think anyone would listen before, but now, he wants to tell what happened. Jordan smiled softly. Tell him I'm ready when he is. By evening, new statements had come in. More people were calling. More stories were being told, stories that had been buried for years. Jordan gathered his paperwork, turned off his office lights, and headed toward the exit. As he stepped outside, he felt the cool air on his face. The day had been long, heavy, and emotional. But it was also the beginning of something important. The truth was finally being heard. The next morning, sunlight filled the city with a warm, gentle light, but inside the police station, there was nothing gentle about the atmosphere. Officers walked quickly through the halls. Phones rang nonstop. Internal Affairs had taken over 2 conference rooms. Boxes of old reports, tapes, and files were stacked everywhere. Jordan stood in the middle of the busy movement, watching it all with a calm but focused expression. What started as one illegal traffic stop had now become a full review of 12 years of policing. A door opened behind him. Commander, an investigator called, we finished reviewing the BodyCam footage from the past 6 months. And? Jordan asked. The investigator shook her head slowly. A pattern. Same behavior, same tone, same threats. It matches the complaints. Jordan thanked her and walked into the conference room where a group of officers sat with notebooks and computers. On the wall was a timeline showing every complaint against Officer Mason, color-coded by year. It was longer than anyone expected. Jordan looked at the officers and said, we are not just looking at one man's actions. We are looking at a system that allowed those actions to continue. Every person who complained deserves to be heard. Every wrong step deserves the truth. An officer raised his hand. Sir, some people on social media are already talking about it. Videos are spreading fast. Let them spread, Jordan said. We are not hiding anything. Later that afternoon, the police commissioner called a meeting with community leaders. Jordan joined him in the meeting room. There were chairs arranged in a circle, and the mood was tense but hopeful. A pastor from the community spoke first. We appreciate the transparency, but this did not start yesterday. People have been suffering for years. I know, the commissioner said, and I take responsibility for that. We should have known sooner. We should have asked more questions. Jordan added, a department is supposed to protect the people. When it fails, we must face that failure fully and honestly. A woman stood up. Jordan recognized her. It was the young woman who had filmed the incident. With respect, she said, trust isn't built with words. It's built with change. Jordan nodded. Then we will show you change. Not by promises, but by action. Another man raised his hand. What will happen to Mason? The commissioner answered, his case is under full investigation. Depending on the findings, he could face termination, criminal charges, or both. The room grew quiet. People exchanged looks. Some nodded. Some seemed uncertain, but for the first time, they felt like someone was truly listening. When the meeting ended, the commissioner looked at Jordan and said, thank you for guiding this. Jordan shook his head. The truth guided this. I only followed. That evening, Jordan returned to his office and continued working through files. He read stories of fear, confusion, and frustration. People who had been stopped on their way home, on their way to work, on their way to visit family. People who lost money to unfair fines. People who had been embarrassed in front of their children. People who had spent nights in jail for things they did not do. Every story mattered to him. He closed one file and leaned back in his chair. His eyes felt heavy, but his heart felt steady. Justice was often slow, often painful, but always worth it. Just then, someone knocked on his door. Come in, Jordan said. Officer Ruiz stepped inside. Sir, more officers want to speak with you. Some are ready to give statements about the surgeon who kept protecting Mason. Jordan nodded. Good. Bring them in tomorrow. Ruiz hesitated, then said, Sir, thank you for not stopping at the surface. Jordan smiled a little. There is no real justice on the surface. Ruiz left, and Jordan stood up. He had one more thing to do before ending the night. He walked down the hallway to the evidence room. Inside, an older officer named Briggs looked up. Here to check the tapes? Briggs asked. Yes, Jordan said. I want to see the video from the night it happened, the full footage. Briggs handed him the drive. Be careful with it. A lot of eyes are on this. Jordan took it and walked back to his office. He inserted the drive and watched the entire incident again, every second, every word. He watched Mason approach the car. He watched the illegal search. He watched his own calm responses. He watched the moment he revealed his badge. But what he paid most attention to was the fear in the air. The way the neighbors watched. The way the young woman held her phone. The way the teenage boy froze on his bicycle. These were the real moments that mattered. When the video ended, Jordan whispered, Never again. The next morning, the department held a press conference. Cameras lined the front of the building. Reporters waited with microphones and notepads. The commissioner stepped up to the podium. Today, he began, our department begins a new chapter. We have launched a full investigation into Officer Mason's actions. We have also discovered failures in supervision and reporting that allowed misconduct to continue for years. We take full responsibility, and we are making immediate changes. Jordan stood behind him, listening quietly. A reporter asked, Commander Jordan, you were the person stopped by Officer Mason. Do you want to make a statement? Jordan stepped forward. He looked at the cameras, but he spoke as if speaking directly to the people who had suffered. I want to say one thing, Jordan said. No one should fear the people who are supposed to protect them. No one should feel unseen or unheard. What happened to me is not just my story. It is the story of many who came before me. And today, we begin correcting that. Flashbulbs lit up the air. When the conference ended, Jordan walked outside and felt the sunlight on his face. The work ahead was long, but something inside him felt lighter, like a door had opened, not just for him, but for everyone who had waited for justice. He looked up at the sky, breathed deeply, and whispered to himself, Let the truth do its work. And with that, he walked back inside to continue the long, important work of rebuilding trust, one step at a time.